4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome aboard. As we await, President Obama is going to make a remark on the situation in Ukraine. Of course, the president reportedly wrote a letter to Vladimir Putin earlier today saying that he was in violation of the arms treaty where the Russians have reportedly violated it by testing nuclear weapons. That's a great shock and a great surprise. So we'll tell you what the president has to say, probably some more sanctions, whatever. But first, Congressman Steve Stockman joins us. And before we get to the congressman, I want us all to watch the White House spokesman talk about impeachment. Look.
Dan Pfeiffer said earlier this morning that I would not discount impeachment as a possibility. Do you really believe that the president could be impeached?
Well, I think that there are senior members of the Republican political party, are certainly prominent voices in the Republican Party, who are calling for exactly that.
And who is that? Sarah Palin is one of them.
She's mentioned it. Somebody mentioned earlier that
be a prominent voice in the Republican Party.
Anybody in Republican leadership seriously talking about that?
Well, I think Sarah Palin considers herself to be a leader.
Hang on, John. This is my question.
Sorry.
There have been a lot of fundraising emails from the Democratic Party with the word impeachment in it. This sounds like a fundraising ploy, a political ploy, not a real thing. You don't really think the president is going to be impeached, do you?
Well, Jim, I think that there are some Republicans, including some Republicans who are running for office, hoping they can get into office so that they can impeach the president.
All right, folks, that's the answer. But joining us now to talk about it is Congressman Steve Stockman, Republican from the great state of Texas, member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. And Congressman, welcome. Of course, John Boehner today saying, we have no plans to impeach the president. We have no future plans. Listen, it's all a scam started by Democrats at the White House.
Well, first of all, I think he has done impeachable offenses. But that being said, I do think the Democrats, and this was also is reported on a Drudge, that I said the president's begging to be impeached so he can raise money and recruit volunteers. In light that they looked at Clinton and they're trying to do a Hail Mary pass, and my contention is this is the case in which Obama's begging to be impeached, and he's doing everything to try to encourage people like myself who feel he's violated the law to do just that. But we only have 12 legislation days left. I don't think realistically we'll do it before the election, but he needs to be held accountable. I'm issuing a arrest before I leave in 12 days. We're trying to make sure we can do this, but we're trying to issue an arrest warrant for Lois Lerner. And by the way, this has been done before. In fact, Sam Houston, where I represent Houston, Texas, he was arrested for beating up a fellow congressman, served time in jail. So this isn't the first time the House has ever done it.
So explain. All right, explain this now. You're before you guys leave, you're going to try to issue an arrest warrant for Lois Lerner, and based on what?
I'm going to issue it. She's already in contempt of Congress.
Okay.
If we don't act in any order of contempt, then it becomes meaningless. If you're a judge and you come before a judge and he says you are held in contempt, and he says, oh, by the way, just go home, then getting honest answers before a jury or before Congress becomes relatively hard to do when you know there's no ramifications for your action.
So explain to me what you issuing an arrest warrant means, sir.
It's a privilege motion. Mr. Boehner or Mr. Obama cannot interfere with it, and the Senate and Mr. Reid cannot interfere with it. And so it would be a simple majority, as I understand it, on the House floor. And then what happens is an arrest warrant is issued, and then she would serve time, and unless she doesn't cooperate, which, by the way, she's cooperating supposedly with the Justice Department, but not with the House committees, which I find interesting. But if she agreed to cooperate, then, of course, she would not be in jail. But she'd be in, if we did arrest her, she'd be in jail until the end of the year, and then the new Congress would have to issue a new arrest warrant.
And where would she serve, sir? Where would she be in jail?
Well, that's not I mean, everybody jokes about having them serve here in the house, which someone told me there's still a prison here. I don't know if it's probably full of books and other things, but well, in our request is that we just put it in a local institution, so somewhere in D.C.
And do you have support in the caucus for this?
Well, they said some things about jail, a word that rhymes with witch, to me several times. So some people are very adamant about it, and other people are less. But I think overall, my contention is if you charge someone with contempt and you don't take action, because the contempt citation becomes meaningless.
Okay, so you plan on doing this before you guys leave, obviously, and that would be a vote on the floor of the House. And what are the chances you think of it passing?
Well, I would challenge any Democrat or Republican to defend Lois Lerner's actions, and if you don't vote to uphold a contempt charge and make her accountable, then my question is, are you advocating the behavior which she has displayed? I mean, she's been insolent. She's in no way compliant. She declared her Fifth Amendment right, and then went ahead and talked. I mean, this is someone who has total disrespect for Congress, and we got to remember she is supposed to be working for the people, and yet she's demonstrated she's not working for the people. She's working for the White House.
Right. All right, one more on this because I want to get the language straight. So you're going to have a vote to issue an arrest warrant, or what you're doing is called issuing an arrest warrant, which must be voted on by the House.
Right. We already actually dropped a bill regarding that, and I can send it to you. But in fact, what we want to do is, and the hurdles, by the way, we have right now is we're clearing it with the parliamentarian, and we would have done it sooner, but we're having some of the rules we're relying on are from 1812. So
I can imagine. All right, I want to move on because I don't want to run out of time before we get to some other matters here. As far as the impeachment, you see any chance of that happening, especially if the president were to sign, as some predict, that blanket amnesty or amnesty for 5 or 6 million
like
illegals?
I said, he wants to be impeached because he feels that's something that can help him. So he's going to go out and do everything possible to increase the anger.
And why would it help him, sir? Your colleague Steve King told me yesterday, that's 3 of us named Steve, told me yesterday that the president has, and this is making news today, has a messiah complex, and this is a quote, almost a quote here, wants to be crucified in the House and then granted eternal life in the Senate.
Well, I mean, he's advocating the same thing I'm saying, is that Obama has survived throughout his life by being the victim. And if you look at his campaigns, his rhetoric, it's always he's a victim. I'm sure even in college he probably played the victim. And he also plays victim politics, where he says, the rich are taking from the poor, and let's distribute wealth.
Right.
That's the role he plays throughout his life. So if he can set it up where he's a victim again, and then the Republicans look, they just from the story that appeared, my story, which if someone read it actually, but a lot of people didn't, it said, it was on the head of Drudge. They raised $2.5 million from that this weekend.
Right. Yep. The fundraising letter went out.
They do know what they're doing. We can't. There's one thing we can say about Obama. He is a community organizer, and he knows how to. Republicans don't know how to do this, but he knows how to get his base activated.
All right. One more for you. I understand that some progress or lack thereof on a bill from the president's request for the people at the border, the kids at the border, the $3.75 billion or so requested. You talk about what's being done.
Well, I think the House is pretty much capitulating, and I don't know why the House capitulating, because everybody views this as something Obama needs to do. He already has the authority to cure the problem. He decided to play pool and drink beer instead of come down to the border. Now, I've been down to the border a couple of times. This last time I was on the border, I found out something that was extremely amazing and rather shocking, is that they admitted that if a pedophile called up and wanted one of the kids to house, he could get a girl or several girls, and in some cases even be paid to take these girls into his home. Now, we don't know that's occurring because we don't do background checks on who picks them up as saying they're family members. You could even have a case in which the coyote on the Mexican side fills out the paperwork for a prostitution ring, and the prostitution ring says that they're part of the family. They send them on buses. There's no one following up on this. They don't even take any fingerprints or any kind of DNA or any kind of biometrics from anybody 14 and under. So what the very bill, which was passed in 2008 to stop child sex slavery, is actually turned out now to actually facilitate it and increase it.
Right, and you had talked about the fact that this bill that has come out of committee or is
well, they filed it at noon today or about 12:30. Now we've been down voting. I've been in committee. I haven't had a chance to read it. Now some of my colleagues have, and they said the commitments that were given to us in conference, that's where the Republicans get together and meet and decide. The assurances that they're given is not even in the bill. And it basically capitulates to the president, and this is the reason Republicans are, someone said Republicans always have a way of screwing things up. We didn't need to get involved in this. The president just need to act. We don't need this bill. All he's got to do is stand by a plane of families going back to Guatemala, and this thing will stop. I talked to a border guard. The same thing happened in 2005. Only it was a flood of Brazilians. And as soon as they expedited the return, it stopped in 24 to 48 hours. And this is the kind of thing we need is leadership.
Congressman, in 30 seconds, but the preliminary look at the bill, you did not get on your side what was promised in the committee.
No, from what I understand, it stinks.
All right, Congressman, I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very, very much.
I appreciate you too. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Steve Stockman, ladies and gentlemen, House Foreign Affairs Committee member, Congressman from the great state of Texas. All right, we're going to come back with the former Deputy Minister of Defense for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.